Okay, Global Partners is not here tonight. I'll be recusing myself from this meeting. But at the end of the meeting, I please ask that you leave quietly because we still have business to do at the end. Okay? Thank you.
All right, we will open the public hearing. We have no new information. The engineers aren't here and Global Partners aren't here, but I will take some comments. We really have no information for any questions, so I will take just several comments and go from there.
Excuse me, if you're having a public hearing.
Your name, please?
My name is Carly O'Brien.
Yes.
And I live in Glencoe Mills, Livingston, have done for over 30 years. If you're having a public hearing, why aren't the people present, the global and the engineers and all these people?
Well, they're still working on their process and their...
So we're all here and they're not here? It's
yes,
a public meeting?
Yes.
And?
We weren't told that until the last couple of days that they weren't going to be here, so we had no time in order to get any information out that they wouldn't be here.
Okay. So there'll be a further public meeting?
Yes, so there'll be one next month.
They're scheduled to be here May 1st.
May 1st?
At the next meeting. As of right now.
But they were,
okay.
I'm sorry, but were they not scheduled to be here today?
Yes.
That's what was said last month when I attended.
Well, they had no,
my name is Carmen.
new information to even show up tonight.
Sorry, but my name is Carmen Henriquez from the Columbia paper. Carmen Henriquez from the Columbia paper. If you knew that they weren't going to be present, why weren't people notified? Because I'm pretty sure that the Livingston Concerned Citizen Group would have sent out emails.
They were told, Pam Klein was told that they wouldn't be here and she was going to get in contact with her people. Okay,
just yesterday she emailed me about this meeting. So how she could have been notified and not notified us that they weren't going to be here?
She would have notified last night or yesterday.
Oh, last night.
Yesterday.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi. My name is Ken Dow. I'm an attorney. I'm also here on behalf of Betsy and Al Scott. They're also my in-laws, so it's professional and personal here. But I'm an attorney to primarily municipal work, and the largest part of that is zoning and planning. I'm the attorney for a couple of zoning and planning boards. I submitted a letter last Thursday by email to the board. I brought copies, which I'll give everyone here just to make sure everyone has a hard copy. But I'm just going to summarize some of the main points that I wrote in the letter. And I started the letter with a question, which is, why did the town board not classify gas station as a permitted use in the C1 district where this is? It's very significant that it was classified as a special use, not as a permitted use. Because the necessary implication there is that the town determined and establishes the town policy that not every proposal for a gas station in this district should be allowed. That's the crucial distinction between a permitted use and a conditional use or special use. The town of Livingston has expressly enacted into law the requirement that if a gas station proposal in this district does not demonstrate and establish its conformity to a substantial set of requirements that are set out in the code, it must be denied outright. They're also put in some case law from the Court of Appeals that points out that merely imposing conditions is not always significant. The essential thing, and the courts have been very clear about this at all levels, that compliance with the applicable local code provisions is required in order to obtain a special use permit. To quote from one second department case, it says, quote, "Entitlement to a special exception permit is not a matter of right. Compliance with local ordinance standards must be shown before a special exception permit can be granted." There's a basically identical quote there from the Court of Appeals, the highest court in the state, that it reiterates that compliance with the standards in the local code must be shown before a special exception permit can be issued or secured. So the governing issue here, it returned to the Livingston Code. And the most significant aspect of that is in section 6.6, which states, all uses listed in the schedule of permitted uses as requiring a special permit, quote, shall conform to the following requirements. And then subdivision 12 goes on to say that the planning board, quote, may approve the issuance of a special permit provided that it shall find that all of the following conditions and standards have been met. This code is quite comprehensive and quite strict. Codes do vary. Every town has their own. Some are very vague, but this one has a very significant set of standards that are required to be met in order to lawfully issue a special use permit. There are a number of things that it doesn't meet. The most notable are in paragraph C. It says operations in connection with any special use will not be offensive, potentially dangerous, destructive of property values, and basic environmental characteristics. That's the one standard that's in there, is that they cannot be any of these things, and the board has to affirmatively find that it will not do any of those things. There's a second completely separate standard, which is also that the potential use will not be more objectionable to nearby properties by reason of noise, fumes, vibration, and certain other things than would the operations of any permitted use not requiring a permit. So first, you have to make sure that it is not offensive, potentially dangerous, destructive of property values, and basic environmental characteristics. If it doesn't pass those tests, it has to be denied. If it does pass those tests, it still has to be compared to all of the other permitted uses, and it has to be shown to be less objectionable to the nearby properties than all of those. In fact, this case doesn't pass on either test. It's also important to emphasize who carries the burden of proof. The appellate division, quote, compliance with ordinance standards must be shown before a special permit can be granted. In this case that I cited, the court noted that the petitioner, that means the applicant, failed to satisfy the threshold standards necessary. The burden is on the applicant coming in to get a permit to show that all these standards are met. It is not the neighbors who need to show that it doesn't. So there is a requirement that the board needs to affirmatively find that all of these things are met, even if nobody showed up here to object to it. That would be required. And there is, in fact, evidence in the record to show that it fails on both of those accounts. So, in particular, when comparing to the nearby properties, it is also really significant what the next nearby properties are. And Betsy and Al's property is host to a thriving horse farm. It's been there for half a century. So what is particularly objectionable to that nearby property is extremely relevant to the board. It might be different if it were surrounded by vacant woodland or croplands, but it is what is relevant to the nearby properties. And in this case, the characteristics of this proposal are particularly objectionable. I went through and actually itemized the entire list of all of the permitted uses in that district, and most of them are almost without impact of any kind. There are things like community poles and fences and single-family homes. But even the others that would certainly have some impact, there's retail of various types and a number of other things. But nothing comes close to the 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, all season, year-round type of activity that this would generate. Most of the uses in reality would be seasonable or periodic, or would have people coming in at a certain time of day. There just isn't anything in the comparative basis that compares to this. So really that's what is in front of this board. The town board, as the legislative body, has enacted the standards that have to be met before issuing a special use permit, and this board has the duty to apply that dispassionately. It's not a matter of public opposition or public favor, whether neighbors favor it or oppose it, if the applicant favors it, oppose it, or the board personally favors it or opposes it, is a question of applying the standards that are in the code to the facts that are presented and determining whether or not it meets and passes the test In this case, it seems to me quite clear that it fails to meet those two tests, and that under the standards of the town Livingston Code, this does not, a special permit for this gas station does not comply with the law and ought not to be granted. So it's laid out in a little more detail in the letter, but I want to recap it for everybody orally, and I do have a copy of it, just to make sure that everybody did have access to it, the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes?
Yes, my name is Ann McPherson, and I am very concerned that because we are serviced by volunteer fire departments, if there were to be a major explosion at this proposed facility, that our fire departments are neither trained nor can deal with serious hazmat and serious oil fires. And I wonder if the applicant is aware of this. Do they demand a professional fire department?
Joey?
Yeah, I'm the fire chief, Paul Johns. I've been fire chief about 9 years, 41 years in Livingston. And the statement you just made is a slap to the people in Livingston Fire District.
Oh, no,
we are
I didn't
trained,
mean it that
excuse
way.
me, we are trained in hazmat. We also have a hazmat team in Columbia County. We are training petroleum fires, okay? I also heard some other statements, other meetings, that we've access up there and we don't know what we're doing. We are highly trained, okay? We know what we're doing, okay? And we can handle, with the hazmat team in Columbia County, to handle any petroleum fire, okay, if it ever happens, okay? We can handle any car accident at the Bell's Pond. We've had hazmat incidents, so the statement you just made is a slap to the volunteers.
It was a question, and I appreciate what you do.
Yes?
My name is Guy Hughes Jr. I'm an officer in the Livingston Fire District, and I think if that question should be asked, it should be directed to the Board of Fire Commissioners, not to the Planning Board.
Any other comments? Yes?
Stand up. My name's Elizabeth Nyland. First I was going to talk about a little further. Okay. Okay, I'll try. I'm Elizabeth Nyland. I had been planning to urge, like so many others, that we go for the full secret, and that based on the master plan implications for development, it said don't ever cite an industrial project with hazardous materials over an aquifer, so that would seem to say we shouldn't be even thinking of this. But today I realize there are some other things that have been concerning me, so I'm going to deal with that tonight. And the first is, it seems to me that I'm sensing a kind of a lack of concern among the Global Partners people for the people who live in the area. I say that because they didn't do a hydrology analysis of the land. That was done by private citizen. They didn't design to New York State standards for drinking water and wastewater systems, as was pointed out in another report, I think done by some other private citizens, TRM Environmental Consultants. I've read the master plan. I don't see much of what I've read in there reflected really in anything they've done, so it seems like they haven't really listened to or read and care about what the people here want, safe water, most important. And they haven't come tonight, and they didn't come to the last meeting, so it just kind of raises some concerns with me for dealing with them in the future. And will they really look out for the best interests of the community as well as their own company? And then the second issue is the size of the project. And I don't mean just how many filling station pumps are going to be. The cafe, 4,800 square feet. and a whole new concept for them, which I think is a really wonderful concept. I just don't know if it's right for here in this little community in a small county. So I've been trying to learn about their market fresh cafes. And what I've learned is there's one. They have one only operating, and it's been open for a couple of months, and it's the one in Plymouth, Massachusetts that the engineer mentioned 2 meetings ago. That's their only experience with operating. Plymouth, Mass, where it is a city between Boston and Newport. It's on the opening to the Cape. It's a very populated area. The town of Plymouth has about 10 times, well, it's about equal to our entire county, and it's about 10 times as many people as live in, or more actually, that live in Livingston. It's an urban environment. This location is in town. People can walk to it as well as drive to it. Nobody's going to walk to this cafe for a meal, I don't think. And yet, they're going to build the same size cafe here that they build there. And I've found mention of other ones they're going to build elsewhere, and they're always 4,800 square feet, so I think that's what they've come up with that they want to do. And one of the articles that I read about it said that their target for this new business, this fresh food prepared on site, many organic and wonderful healthy ingredients, their target is millennials and mothers. And that's the target of a lot of food companies and food businesses, and it's wonderful. But I don't know that we have very many millennials here. We have mothers, but another thing about this is we've got a lot of grain bowls and salads and things that some people love and not everybody loves. I don't think we're a millennial-oriented community, so I worry they'll build it and nobody will come and they won't make their money and they'll leave and we'll have another empty business, this one huge, that no other gas company will want to come and take over because this one wouldn't have been able to make a success of it. So that's my concern, and I gave a copy of the articles I read where I learned about it, but they're just learning how to do this business, and I would hope you would question them on why they think this little community, well, there's 3,600 people or so in Livingston, and there's over 55,000 people in Plymouth, and that's surrounded by that whole Boston area. Why do they think they can put the same size cafe here and more gas stations, because there's more gas stations planned for here than they have there? Why do they think this area can absorb it and support it? I mean, because I just don't see it happening, and I worry about it a lot. I think it's a great idea, just not for here.
She actually brings up the point that I wanted to make. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. No, if you want to.
I've been sitting here listening to this, and I'm just getting more frustrated all along. I'm too old to listen to a bunch of crap. Family's been here since 1890, and Bellows Pond, my folks, has went through a lot of different evolutions. At one time, there was 5 gas stations in Bellows Pond, each of which had 2 fuel tanks because you had high test and regular. There was 3 diners in Bellows Pond. These is all at the same time. Now, mind you, the parkway stopped at Taconic. All traffic on that parkway came through Bellows Pond. And we had a heck of a configuration because Route 9 and Route 82 was a Y with a yield sign. On Route 9, people were getting killed left and right. So they changed the configuration to that. But I just want to emphasize that you're not dealing with the town people. You've got hundreds of cars coming through. You want to try to plow a private driveway on Route 82 in the wintertime, it's worth your life. Because I did it for 25 years. And believe me, you want to do it at night so you can still get run over. But I mean, it's just the idea, Bell's Pond is not just for us. You've got 38 Airbnbs in town. You have 3 or 4 wedding venues that bring everybody up here, but you don't want to give them anything. All you want is their money.
That's right. All right, I'm going to take one more.
David Finger, resident of town here. In fact, I've sat on the town board up there for a number of years. I just want to say that I'm very in favor of this project, and I hope you give it due diligence and get it passed and get it done. Thanks.
We're going to close the public hearing, and it will reopen at the May meeting, May 1st. Thank you.